Last minute shakeup at 5:30 a.m., laundry situation not good. And when your focus is on helping your clients, it's easy to forget about yourself. But NASM knows trainers.
Morning, Ryan. Is okay with
And staying in front of the day isn't always
Nice,
as simple
Ryan.
as 1,
What's
2,
up?
3. So when the unexpected has you pressing pause,
What's the latest on creatine?
I'm going to get back to you on that.
let NASM1 help you press play. Visit NASM.org to sign up for a membership today.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Strong Mind, Strong Body. I'm your host, Angie Miller. I have a question for you to consider before we even start. What if the fitness industry's multi-billion-dollar obsession with aesthetics is actually failing us? Think about the fitness messaging that you receive every day. Beach body ready, shred those last 10 pounds, burn the fat, no pain, no gain. Summer bodies are made in winter. Do any of those sound familiar? Or even just about the aesthetic messaging, walking by gyms and seeing nothing but these just svelte bodies that seem to be formed or chiseled in ways that most of us are not. And a lot of times youth-driven obsession with fitness. So the language that permeates our fitness culture is overwhelmingly focused on how we look versus how we feel or how we function. And research suggests that this is fundamentally failing all of us because it gets in the way of creating sustainable motivation that we need for long-term fitness success. So I want to talk about why the words we use matter so much when it comes to fitness motivation, and how shifting our language from aesthetic focused to intrinsically motivating can transform not just how we approach exercise, but how we stick with it or how well we stick with it in the long term. So whether you're a fitness professional looking to better motivate your clients, or you're an athlete who's seeking deeper motivation, or an everyday enthusiast who's struggling to maintain consistent exercise habits, this episode is perfect for you. We're going to explore the science of motivation, the psychology of the language and the words that we use, and practical ways that you can transform exercise from something that feels like punishment to something that brings genuine pleasure. And this episode is deeply passionate for me because I know I started out in the industry with a trainer body shaming me. And that was my first introduction. And when I actually discovered how much fitness could transform the way that I feel, that is actually so much of what inspired me to go back, work as a therapist, a psychotherapist, and to bridge this gap between fitness and mental health. Because really, wellness and fitness is so emotionally driven. And if we are feeling good up in our mind, we're going to feel good in our bodies and vice versa. But it's not about when we body shame people and we use language that supports that our body's supposed to look a certain way. So let's talk first about what is the problem with aesthetic focused fitness, because we see it all over from the images to the words. So what is the problem? Well, I mentioned at the beginning that the fitness industry is worth billions of dollars globally. And the vast majority of that market focuses on one primary motivator, and that's to look better. Open any fitness magazine, like I said, walk by a gym and look at the images on the window or scroll through social media, and you're bombarded with all the messages about getting ripped, toning up, achieving that summer body, or, messages that say things like just, that kind of make you feel like if you don't want those things, that maybe you don't have the right goals in mind. But here's the problem. Research consistently shows that appearance-based motivations fail in the long run. They did a systematic review of studies that was published in the International Journal of Behavioral Nutrition and Physical Activity. And they examined the relationship between different motivators and exercise adherence. In other words, like what are the motivations that are being used to inspire people and how well are they working in actually in outcome-based fitness? Like how is it actually motivating people to adhere to their exercise routine? And what they found was that intrinsic motives like enjoyment and challenge were consistently associated with long-term exercise behavior. But body-related motivation shows mixed or even negative associations with sustained exercise. There's a lot of research out there that says, somebody might come in with the goal of losing 5 pounds, but 6 months to a year later, that's not why they're there because that's not sustainable. That's more of like body shaming. I need to reshape my body. And then once that's over, then what? Now we need intrinsic motivators. We need to talk about how we feel versus how we look. So, according to the self-determination theory, which is this well-established framework for understanding human motivation, and it was developed by psychologists Edward Deci and Richard Ryan, they say that our motivations fall along a spectrum from extrinsic motivators to intrinsic. So extrinsic is driven by external rewards or pressures, like your doctor says that you need to exercise more, or maybe you meet a partner who's really into fitness and wellness, so you feel this pressure to do that. But intrinsic is driven by this internal satisfaction or enjoyment. Like I love going to the gym because I love the people that I take class with, or I feel amazing when I leave. And when we exercise primarily to change how we look, or because someone said we should exercise, or because we want to look good for our upcoming reunion, we're operating then on intrinsic motivators, that stimuli that comes in from outside of us. We're doing the activity as a means to an end, not because we actually enjoy the process itself. And while extrinsic motivation can get us started, it's not what's going to sustain us for the challenges of a lifelong fitness journey, right? It's kind of like, I look at it like relationships. There's an initial infatuation that you have with somebody that you start dating, and you're so wowed by everything they do because everything is new and unique. And you're like, oh, this person is amazing. But then when you really get to know them and you're with them for years or decades upon decades, there has to be something more that connects you other than physical attributes or all those things that kind of maybe connected you in the beginning. So think about it. If your primary motivation for exercising is to look better, then what happens when you don't see results as quickly as you expected? What happens when you reach your aesthetic goal, but then you realize, oh, this is going to require constant maintenance? Again, go back to the relationship. In the beginning, it's all fun and new. Then it's work, right? There's not a relationship out there that isn't work. Or what happens when life gets stressful and you have to choose between your workout or other priorities? What happens when you experience changes in your body due to aging or pregnancy or health conditions? Or what happens when the reunion's over? What happened when the partner who told you that you should exercise is no longer your partner? So in these situations, aesthetic motivation just crumbles because it's tied to outcomes rather than the process itself. It's tied to all these extrinsic motivators. But the problem goes beyond the fact that extrinsic motivators are ineffective. It goes beyond that. The truth is that the language of aesthetic focused fitness can actually be very harmful to our psyche. Research published by psychologists studying Fitspiration, that hashtag Fitspiration, those who studied the Fitspiration content on social media found that exposure to appearance-centered fitness messaging decreased body satisfaction and mood in many participants. Findings spotlighted the potential harm of promoting these unrealistic beauty ideals, which then can lead to negative body image and compromise emotional well-being. After all, if all we see is the perfect body and Fitspiration, just do it kind of messages, it really does get into our psyche, and we start to really have a lot of self-doubt and shaming that goes on because, gee, why aren't we motivated by someone's perfect body? Well, I can tell you right now, it's not motivating, right? So the language we use in fitness doesn't really describe reality, it creates reality. So think about that. The words we use don't describe reality, they create our reality. When we frame exercise as something that is going to change the way we look, then we establish a mindset that says things like, my self worth is conditional. Like, I'll be good enough when I look different. Or we get into all or nothing thinking. If I can't get the perfect body, why try? Or we get this into this mindset of external validation seeking. Like, I need other people to notice how good I look. Or it's shame based. I look terrible. I need to fix myself. So again, that doesn't describe our fitness reality, it creates it because our mind believes what we tell it. So none of these mindsets support a healthy, sustainable relationship with movement for life. So if aesthetic motivation isn't the answer, what is? So think about that. That's a lot to process. So I'll just reset for a minute. I'm Angie Miller. This is Strong Mind, Strong Body. And we're talking about why words matter and why we need to get away from aesthetic driven fitness. So let's talk about the science of motivation beyond appearance. So if we want to understand better approaches to fitness motivation, we have to look at what the research tells us about how to get intrinsically motivated for long-term behavior change. Self-determination theory that I mentioned earlier, it highlights 3 fundamental psychological needs that drive our intrinsic motivation. And one of the fundamental needs that we have as humans in order to have long-term success at motivation is we need to feel a sense of personal autonomy. In other words, we need to feel that we have a sense of ownership or agency over our actions and decisions, that we're acting on our own volition rather than somebody telling us what to do or how to do it. And I know you're thinking, well, trainers tell us what to do. Yes, and you go to a trainer because you're looking for that extra push and you want the guidance and the support and the knowledge. But there's a lot of research out there. Just because your doctor says you should exercise, that's not really sustainable motivation. We need to feel that we have a sense of agency over our decisions. Like, I'm doing this because this makes me feel good. That's an autonomous decision. And the other part of DC self-determination theory is competence. So that's closely related to self-efficacy. It means that we believe in our ability to succeed in a specific situation. So competence is about feeling effective and capable. If we don't feel effective and capable in exercise, we're not going to want to do it, right? If there's body shaming going on in class, or the instructor's teaching well above our level, or the trainer is pushing us too hard, we don't have that sense of competence. And that just diminishes our self-esteem. And we go, forget it. If I can't do it, I can't do it. Why would I even want to try? And then the third part of self-determination theory is relatedness. This need to feel a sense of belonging and connection to others and to feel accepted in social groups. So that's why groups are powerful. Group fitness, small group training, because we feel like we belong. Or even just when you walk into the gym and the person at the front desk acknowledges you, or you get on a Zoom class and the instructor's like, hey, I'm so glad you're here, Stacy or Sam, right? Because it's a sense of acknowledgement and belonging that somebody notices that you're in the room. So when these needs are met in our fitness experiences, we're going to become more intrinsically motivated. And that's the kind of motivation that just puts all the other stuff like the external rewards and pleasures aside. So there was another meta-analysis published in the Psychological Bulletin, and it examined how different types of motivation impact exercise. So the findings were clear. Autonomous forms of motivation, where people feel like they're exercising by choice and for personal reasons, predicted greater persistence and higher performance over controlled forms of motivation, where people feel obligated or pressured, like I should exercise because I'm supposed to lose weight, versus I could exercise because I'll feel better. So we need to feel like we have agency. We need to feel like we are going to the gym or we are exercising because it's our choice to do it. I always tell the people when they take my class, true story, I always say, you're the boss of you. Okay. That's my famous saying. You're the boss of you. Do you. If I'm suggesting you do something and it does not feel good for your body, I want you to be the boss of you. I want you to maintain personal autonomy and say, yep, that's not my move. Okay. So that study connects to another powerful concept, which is the growth mindset. And I've done a couple of podcasts on growth mindset. It's based on Carol Dweck's work, where she wrote that book, Growth Mindset. And it's about the belief that our abilities, that we are not fixed, that we are fluid in our abilities, and that if we are dedicated and we put in hard work, we become better at something, versus those who have a fixed mindset believe that, like, I'm born with it. It is the way it is. Those are the people who are like, um, you know, it is the way it is. That's the way I am. And I'm like, it is the way you are until you're not, until you put some effort into positive change, if that's not working for you anymore. So the neuroscience here is also, I think, very fascinating. Research has found that there's a connection between growth mindset, intrinsic motivation, and specific neural pathways in the brain. So basically, it says that when we're intrinsically motivated, our brain releases dopamine, and that makes us feel more engaged, more curious, and it enhances our desire to continue the activity. So all these things point to just one simple fact, that intrinsic motivation is huge. And I'm sure you're thinking, yes, and it is simple, and yet it's not. How do we find intrinsic motivation when we've always felt like movement is a struggle? So I'm going to get there. Don't worry. So which intrinsic motivators are more effective than aesthetics? Well, research highlights a few. Okay. Number one, we have to have a sense of enjoyment. I don't care if your best friend or your neighbor lost 10 pounds because they claim that they take a HIIT class. You know what? Sorry, I'm vomiting in my mouth right now. So what? If you don't find pleasure in it, you're not going to want to do it consistently. You have to feel like it's something that you enjoy doing. Personally, I hate HIIT classes and I'm good with that, right? But I love strength training classes and I love kettlebells, and there are things I do love. And yes, I mix it up, but I know what I like and don't like. And I don't care if it worked for someone else. I care how it makes me feel. So enjoyment is that you find genuine pleasure in whatever it is that you're doing. Another intrinsic motivator is competence, like I talked about. You feel like you are seeing progress and you are developing skill, like you're getting better, right? That's a huge, huge thing. There's also challenge is intrinsically motivating. The engaging experience of pushing beyond your comfort zone. But challenge is a funny thing, by the way, because there's that level of challenge that keeps us motivated, like you see results and you want to keep doing better. And then there's a challenge that is so big and so magnanimous that you're like, forget it. There's no way. So challenge is a staircase, and it's one step at a time. And it has to be something that we believe we can ultimately achieve. And then there's autonomy, which is what I already talked about. And there's connection, which I talked about. There's also energy. I think we're intrinsically motivated when we notice that our energy is different, when we notice that we have improved vitality and mood that comes from regular movement, right? So if I start to feel dysregulated, I feel sad, or I just feel down or low on energy, and I go out and I take a walk, I am a different person. It's not because it was hard or overly challenging, but because I stepped away from myself, if you will, and I went out into nature, and I have more vitality. And that goes along with the next one, because another intrinsic motivator is stress relief. So the emotional regulation benefits of physical activity are highly researched. I did a show on, I can't remember what it was called, but I did a show on, mental health and exercise, and how all the research supports that movement improves our mental health and lowers rates of depression and anxiety. And then last but not least is the health is an intrinsic motivator. When we notice that our body is functioning better, when we notice when we go into the doctor and our blood levels are better and we have better lung capacity, those are things that are intrinsically motivated. So when we focus our language on these benefits, we tap into a deeper and more sustainable source of motivation. And most importantly, these motivators are not contingent on specific outcomes. They're talking about the process itself. So, how do we reframe our language and our mindset? Because now you've got all the tools and you know the research, but you're thinking, yes, but what do I say to myself? Or how do I change the way I look at movement? So let's talk about that. I just have a few examples to give you. Okay. I have a few kind of reframe examples where we shift from appearance based language to intrinsic motivation language. So, for instance, instead of, I need to lose weight in order to fit into this dress, that's punishment. Or you could say, I want to move my body so that I'm going to feel really good in this dress. Instead of saying, I have to go to the gym because I need to burn off that dessert that I had last night at dinner, you could say, I want to go to the gym because I want to nourish my body with movement, not punish it, but nourish it. Instead of saying, I hate my arms or my thighs, how about I appreciate what my body allows me to do? I love that my arms have hugged so many people that I love and that they've held those that I care about. I love that they're strong enough to lift weights at the gym and carry things that I need. I love that my thighs support me as I walk and they're strong and capable, so I move through life quite well. Or how about instead of no pain, no gain? Thank goodness I don't hear that as much, but it's still out there. How about if you just remind yourself that pain is not the purpose, but when you overcome a challenge, you do get to celebrate success. But challenges don't have to be painful, okay? Literally, physically painful. Instead of, I need to get beach body ready, how about my beach body is the body I take to the beach? That's your body. Take it where you want to take it, whether it's the beach or whatever it is. How about I accept that my worth isn't measured by how I look in swimwear, for goodness sakes? Or how about if you just remind yourself that the beach is for experiencing joy, not displaying the perfect body? Or last but not least, instead of, I just don't like exercise. I hear that all the time. I just don't like exercise. First of all, I would replace the word exercise with movement. And I would just say movement is for life. It's for me to feel and function better. If I want to grow old and have a functioning body and I want to focus on longevity and health, then yes, I'm going to have to move. It's just a fact. So when we go from external appearance to internal experience, think about that. External appearance to internal experience. We go from self-criticism to self-appreciation, self-acceptance, self-belief. When we go from what others want and expect to what motivates you and what makes you feel good. When we go from outcomes to process, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. And then when we go from obligation, which is should, to possibility and opportunity, which is could. Basically, I always tell my clients in fitness and in mental health, you are not allowed to use the word should. Shoulds are obligation, shoulds are shame, coulds are possibility and opportunity. So shifting our language has a profound effect on our mindset and our self-belief because our bodies and our brains respond differently when we perceive exercise as a positive challenge versus a threatening obligation. So Kelly McGonigal, she's a health psychologist. She said that reframing how we view physical strain, like an elevated heart rate or, deep breathing, it can fundamentally challenge. When we view those like an elevated heart rate or, kind of extreme breathing, when we view those as signs that our body is getting energized for a welcome challenge rather than danger, danger, or I'm failing at this, we experience better performance and more positive emotions. And that connects to the powerful role of self-talk and exercise. So research in sports psychology has always shown that when we focus on process over outcome, it reduces anxiety and increases enjoyment. So I'm going to give you an example. I don't like running. I just don't. Okay. So the way that I get through a run is to tell myself, instead of focusing on the outcome, like I have to run 3 miles, I focus on, I'm going to take it 5 minutes at a time. I'm going to get through 5 minutes. And then when that's up, I'm going to say, okay, 5 minutes more, Angie. Okay, 5 minutes more. Okay, 5 minutes more until I get to that 3 miles or however long it takes me to get there. So I'm focusing on the process instead of the ultimate outcome. So instead of saying, I need to lose 10 pounds, it would be, I want to lose 1 pound and then I want to lose another pound. Because we don't want to focus on the end result. We want to focus on the process of what it takes to get there. Why? Because those are stair steps and we get to congratulate ourselves along the way and actually celebrate our success along the way. So here's the thing. When we use positive language, our body responds in a positive way. So it's kind of like this connection is real and it's bidirectional. So the language we use influences the way we feel about our body. And our physical appearance influences our mental narrative. So if we intentionally change our language, we create this upper spiral where positive experiences lead to more positive language, which leads to more positive experiences. So I'm going to let you sit with that for a minute, right? It goes hand in hand. If I'm saying nice things to myself, I'm more motivated to exercise. If I'm more motivated to exercise, my mind feels better. So Kristen Neff, another psychologist, talks about self-compassion. I love her books. She's a huge, huge driver of self-compassion. And she says that when that self-compassion, like treating ourselves with the same kindness that we would offer a good friend, leads to greater emotional resilience and increased motivation. So what does self-compassion language sound like? It means that we're acknowledging our effort over our results. Hey, maybe I didn't lose that pound this week, but gosh, I went to the gym 3 times and I feel amazing. It's recognizing that setbacks and struggles are part of everyone's journey, right? I just went to Ireland and Scotland for 2 weeks. I came back. I didn't do any formal exercise. I struggled to get back into a routine. And guess what? I had the best time in Ireland and Scotland. So celebrating, another way to celebrate or to build self-compassion is to celebrate what your body can do rather than criticizing how it looks, or to focus on how movement makes you feel versus how it looks, how you look. And then talking to yourself like you would a friend, just using compassionate, accepting language. All right. So I want to end with some practical strategies for both fitness professionals who are working with clients and for individuals who are looking to transform their fitness motivation. So here's some strategies. Number 1, audit your language. Focus on what you're focusing on. Take time to consciously review the words and phrases you use when you're coaching or creating content for your clients. Are you focused on appearance, or could you shift toward intrinsic motivators? How about process goals rather than outcome? Can you help your clients, your friends, and yourself set goals based on behaviors? Like, I'm going to exercise 3 times this week, rather than outcomes, I need to lose 10 pounds. And then number 3, can you create environments that support psychological needs, right? Environments that support psychological needs. Again, go back to DC's theory: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. So that means that if you're an individual, can you find a friend to walk with? Can you take classes where you'll meet people so that you'll feel a sense of agency over your workout? You'll feel competent in accomplishing the workout, and you'll also feel relatedness, like this connection to other humans. Okay. So for those of you who are individuals, you're not a trainer, I have a few things to leave you with. If you're really looking for intrinsic motivation, one of the best things that I found that helps my clients is to keep a movement journal. So after each workout, take a minute, and you don't have to journal. Give me 3 adjectives that describe how you feel now that your routine or your exercise or your movement routine is over. Focus on the mental, the physical, and the emotional sensations rather than the appearance. So this trains your brain to notice and value intrinsic rewards. So a movement journal, again, it's as simple as 3 words. Then number 2, create a personal motivation statement. This one works well too. Craft a sentence or two that captures your deeply personal, non-aesthetic reasons for moving. So in other words, connect the behavior to the core values. What's my very personal reason for movement? To keep my brain healthy. 100%, hands down. That's my goal. Keep my brain healthy. That's my personal motivation statement. Another one is find your flow activities. So in other words, explore different activities that put you into a flow where you're so engaged that time seems to disappear, right? Because that's much more intrinsically motivated. And then last but not least, use growth-oriented language. Add yet to statements about limitations. So I'll explain. Instead of saying I can't do a pull-up, it's I can't do a pull-up yet. Instead of saying I can't run a mile, it's I can't run a mile yet. So maybe I can't do a pull-up yet, but I really push through when the going gets tough. All right. Last but not least, try to practice the mindful movement. Try to do something where you're not listening to a podcast or watching TV or, talking with other people. Try to just engage all your senses, even if it's a 5-minute walk every day. So as we wrap up, I just want to emphasize that this isn't here to judge anyone's motivation. We're all motivated for different reasons. If improving your appearance is one of your fitness goals, fantastic. That is completely valid. But I think that the issue arises when it becomes our only motivator. It's our only and primary motivator because research shows that it's not enough to sustain us long term. So the words we use matter. They shape our experience, they direct our attention, and they determine what we find motivating. So I want to encourage all of you, become more conscious of the fitness language you use, become more conscious of your own compassion toward yourself. And if you find this episode valuable, I hope you'll share it with others who might benefit. And I would love to hear about your experiences with shifting your fitness language. So message me on social media or leave a here on YouTube. Or, my email is Angie@angiemillerwellness.com, or it's fitness. You could do fitness.com too. And my website is Angie Miller Wellness. You can also go to Angie Miller Fitness. They both go to the same place. So I'm Angie Miller. Thank you so much for joining me today. I wish you all of the best in your fitness endeavors.